Hey copper nerds and future copper nerds, American Numismatics has all kinds of coins available for you to collect and specialize in, but I'd like to pitch you on why it is that I choose to focus on early American copper coins. Let's get into it. So most of us start out our collecting journey collecting things like Buffalo nickels. This one's kind of cool. It's got a lamination error. Or Morgan dollars, you know. This one's artificially toned. I just like how it looked. Or maybe silver eagles or peace dollars. I particularly love the high relief 1921s. But if you dig earlier into the history of American coinage, you're going to find some really interesting stuff the further back you go. But if you're looking at, late 1700s and early 1800s gold and silver, it's just so expensive. But what you can get your hands on very affordably, 1800s large cents, like this one's worth probably 10 or 15 bucks. Not much, easy to collect. And then if you rewind back to the beginning of American coinage, you can get your hands on stuff like this chain cent from 1793. This was the first coin produced by the mint for widespread distribution and use in commerce. Of course, if you're looking for the very first coin minted at the U.S. Mint, that would be the half diem, and those are very, very expensive. Not that chain cents are particularly affordable, but this example can be had in the low four figures, which is a lot of money, but for such a significant piece of history, it's really interesting, and you can handle these coins. They're generally lower grade in affordable examples, and you can handle them fairly casually without having to fear of damaging them more than what has already occurred throughout its natural lifetime. Another fun, very early example is the very first coin approved by Congress was the Fugio cent. Fugio cents are climbing in value fairly rapidly, but you can still get your hands on these, in the mid to high hundreds, low thousands. This has got a big old bisecting break. I really enjoy some of the early minting die anomalies, die breaks, and cuds and things of that nature I find particularly interesting. But Fugio cents, another very neat coin that you can collect in the early copper niche, that really have a lot of historical significance and are fairly affordable. I specialize in 1794 large cents, and I've pulled out a few of them. What copper does in nature, particularly if it's spent any time in the ground or in non-optimal storage conditions, high humidity, things like that, is they do corrode and pick up some pitting here and there. What I like about this coin is the die sunk on the reverse, which raise the surface of the coin, which prematurely wears, and you see those flat spots in the corresponding areas where the die had sunk and the coin surface had raised as a result. This one also has a giant bisecting die crack from north to south. If you can see that there, starting from there, ending down here, running through the hair of the neck, behind the ear there. Interesting little diagnostics. And some of these coins came from famous collections. This one was in the Wes Rasmussen collection, for example. This one was in the Herman Halpern collection, along with Philip Strauss, Doris Nelson, and then my uncle George Parker had this coin. This one I inherited. And it's just a lovely example of what we were producing at the early US Mint. And while coins like this one aren't particularly affordable, if you go down in grade a little further from this, you really can get your hands on some nice coins on a budget. This Sheldon 22 bent lock, for example, in a fresh capsule. Get it out. These things start out tight and loosen up a little more as you use them. Oh, one of the names for the S22 is the large planchet variety, so it doesn't fit as well inside of the foam ring as the other 28mm varieties. These are usually about 29. But a coin like this can be had for about $500. It's got some planchet anomalies. We had really rough copper supply early in our US Mint's history, and this illustrates that fairly well. But a nice depiction of liberty for a handful of $100, and you're really holding history when you collect these coins, unlike a mass-produced silver dollar, for example. Back in the 1700s, they were not turning out coins at that type of a pace. When they've been left in the ground, nature reacts with them and they corrode because they are copper. Copper is a highly reactive metal, whereas silver is not and gold is inert. This one's covered in corrosion, but is still beautiful. And this coin was very affordable and very rare. One of only maybe 30 known to exist in the world of this variety, exceptionally rare. But when you are chasing things that are in a lower grade that you can casually handle and enjoy, they're affordable. Let's look at a couple more. Let's look at these 1823 restrikes. Neat history on these. 1823 is a very scarce date for collectors. And the early US Mint was run fairly haphazardly. And when they would sell scrap metal, that would include retired dies that they hadn't canceled. This 1823 restrike was struck on authentic US dies, but privately. This is a counterfeit piece. Called a restrike, but really a counterfeit. And this is an early one before the dies started breaking apart. But that didn't stop them from striking more coins. Let's check this one out. This one is very late die state, same exact pair of dies, but these cracks are very impressive. Check that out. Big old bisecting crack, another crack coming up from the bottom, and a giant rim cud, a rim break cud. And again, these 1823 restrikes, when you find them, $1,000, $1,500 in really high grade. Just some fun examples. I'm not saying they're cheap, but they are certainly affordable compared to some other numismatic items from the early American minting. But again, you can get into stuff for like $15 as well. So if you haven't considered early American copper coins, you know, take a look at them. They're interesting, they're very diverse in their depictions of liberty. I really enjoy collecting them and handling them. They're truly cool pieces of history that you can pull out and peruse. And I get more enjoyment out of looking at something like this than I do, you know, a mercury dime. As nice as this one might be. So that's my brief little sales pitch for early copper. If you want to learn more about early copper, just stick around the channel. That's really all we talk about, and we'd love to have you. So thanks for checking this one out. Feel free to hit me in the comments, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.